What we're going to be looking at today is variables and expressions, specifically what they are. To start off, let's define what a variable is. And in order to do this, let's look at a basic example that you may be a little more familiar with. Say, for example, you have this. You have blank plus 2 is equal to 5. What number would need to go in this blank over here in order to make this whole equation true? Well, in this case, that number would be 3. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. Let's look at another example. Say you had blank minus 4 is equal to 10. In this case, what number would you need to put in the blank in order to make the equation true? That number would be 14. So in algebra, these blanks right here, where we have the 3, and this one right here, where we have the 14, is technically called an unknown location. And since it's an unknown location, it is usually replaced by a letter. And this letter is what is known as a variable. So in this case right here, we could simply replace this blank, or where this location of the 3 is, with a letter, say, X. The letter that is used in algebra can be any letter that you like. It can be X, it can be Y, it can be any letter, and sometimes even symbols are used. But to keep it simple, the most common variable that is usually used, or the most common letter that is usually used, is X. So in this case over here, this blank, or where the location of the 14 is, would be replaced with an X as well. And this whole equation could be written with a variable as X plus 2 is equal to 5. Similarly, in this example over here, you would have X minus 4 is equal to 10. And again, in this case over here, this is what is known as your variable. And similarly over here, this is also your variable. Again, a variable is any letter or symbol that is used to represent an unknown. So now that we have defined what a variable is, let's look at another term, and that term is an expression. Going back to this first example here of x plus 2, this whole part right here is what is known as an expression. Similarly, over here, the x minus 4 is also known as an expression. And to define what an expression is, let's pull this down a little bit. So let's say we have x plus 2. An expression is something that is made up of 3 components. And those 3 components are one or more variables. In this case, we have the x. So this right here is your variable. It has one or more operations. And in this case right here, it's our addition. So this right here is the operation. And lastly, one or more numbers. So right over here is our number. And these 3 items, or these 3 components, are what make up an expression. So whenever you have those 3 components, you know that it's an expression. similarly, going back to our second example of x minus 4, we have x being our variable. We have the subtraction sign as our operation. And we have the number 4. Just to give you other examples of what expressions are, we can have something like 2x squared plus 4. That's an expression, and the reason why is because it has one or more numbers. In this case right here, we have the 2 and 4 with one or more variables. We have the variable right there, and we have the operation right there. Another example of an expression could be 4n cubed plus p. And again, we have a number, we have variables, and notice that in this case over here, we're using different letters than the x that we had in this example or the examples that we had earlier. And then we have our operation. An expression could be even more complicated. It could be x squared plus 4x minus 4. That is also an expression because, again, it has one or more numbers, the 4's, one or more variables, which are these x's right here, and then we have our operations, which is the addition and subtraction sign. And the last one that I want to throw out there, because I think we get the idea of what expressions are, is 5x. 5x is also an expression, and it's a little bit tricky to understand exactly why, but we do have our number over here and our variable. But then we start asking ourselves, where is the operation? And in order to dive a little bit further into that, let me just clear up the screen over here and we'll look at just 5x. So again, we were looking at the idea that 5x is an expression. And we had stated that there is a number and we also have a variable. But in order for this to be considered an expression, we also need an operation. And this operation is not really clearly shown when writing 5x. But technically, one of the things that we learn in algebra is that whenever you have a number and a variable or a letter, multiplication is usually written a little bit different. So technically, this expression right here, 5x, could be written as 5 times x. Now, this causes a little bit of confusion, and that's why it ends up being written as 5x. And the reason why is that our multiplication sign over here and our variable right here are the same letter. And this was not a problem when we were just looking at numbers, say for example 2 times 3, but it becomes an issue when you start having letters in the mix because this right here is symbolizing an operation, well this right here is symbolizing an unknown, but they are the same letter. And in order to differentiate between the two, it was commonly agreed upon that 5 times x could be written as 5x. Similarly, we can write our 5 times x as 5 dot x. And this means the same exact thing. We're having our 5 multiplied by our variable x. And this can also be written as 5 brackets x. Again, this is saying that our number 5 is being multiplied by the variable x. But all of these over here are the same as writing 5x. Let's write it down over here. We have a 5 dot x. We would have our number. We would have our operation, and we would have our variable. And again, those three components, the number, the operation, and the variable, are what make up an expression. So that does it for me today. And again, just going back from the beginning, we were looking at what a variable is, and that is simply an unknown, and it is represented by a letter or a symbol. And then we moved into looking at what an expression is. And we defined an expression as something that is made up of three components. And those components are that it has to have one or more numbers with one or more operations and one or more variables. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit, and I hope to see you next time.